In today's episode, the Vauxhall Astra and Belmont Special Edition Jubilee. Hello, welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel here on YouTube, where we look at cars from around the world for the 1960s, 70s, 80s and 1990s. We even go beyond that scope as well. So if you think any of that might interest you, maybe watch the episode and then consider subscribing. Really would be helpful and keeps you in touch with the channel. Anyway, what we're looking at today, special editions. So the special edition Astra and Belmont. So this will be 1987. So let's throw that on the board and have a look at this model. So here is the brochure, and we'll certainly zoom in a moment. You might not be able to see it, but it says Vauxhall in big writing along the top there, then Astra Belmont, and then down the bottom here, Jubilee Special Edition. So there we go, the second edition Astra, when the Astra went a little bit curvy, didn't it? In fact, the Mark II Astra, or the second generation Astra, is, I don't know if I really touched too much on the channel. I certainly will have to do that at some point and maybe even compare it with some of the other branded vehicles of essentially the same car. But here we've got the Belmont as well, which was the Astra with a boot, like the Orion was the booted version of the Escort. And of course we've also got the estate version, so 3 different variations of this special edition. So let's open the brochure up. So it starts with the most common of them all, the Astra, the hatchbacked version of them. So interesting, there is actually 3 variations of the special edition. We'll start with the text to learn a little bit more about it and what this special edition is all about. Then we'll have a look at these interesting images. Writing's a little bit small, but I will read it out to you, of course. It says, celebrating 25 years of building Vauxhall cars at Ellesmere Port. Come 3 exclusive and very special cars. The Jubilee version of Astra Belmont Astra Estate. So an unusual special edition, isn't it? I don't know how many special editions revolve around building cars at a particular site. So that's interesting. These attractive special models have the virtues of their respective stablemates, endowed with modern styling, fine engineering and excellent economy. They are also practical vehicles for modern motoring needs, thanks to good initial design. And with the distinctive Jubilee looks and highly individual specification added to the equation, they represent even better value for money than ever. Their modern styling is matched by refined engineering. Each is powered by a 1.3 overhead cam engine with hydraulic tappets and electronic ignition for power, performance and economy. The 5-door Astra Jubilee hatch, for example, has a top speed capable of 106 miles per hour. It returns 54.3 miles per gallon at a steady 56, and yet it can accommodate a surprisingly useful amount of luggage with a maximum load capacity of 35.3 cubic feet, thanks to its split folding rear seat, a feature shared with all Jubilee models. A nice little image there of how these are badged. And then it lists some of the Jubilee hatch features. So plaid sport cloth seat and door trim, driver's seat height adjuster, 60/40 split folding rear seat, front seat head restraints, stereo radio cassette with 4 speakers, quartz clock and cigar lighter, illuminated glove box, load area. Tells you about the size of the steel sports wheels and tyres, low profile tyres. Tinted glass with windscreen shade band, intermittent tailgate wash wipe, body colour door mirror housing, silver highlight to bumpers and body side protective mouldings. And then finally double coach line stripe and Jubilee decals on front doors and tailgate. Better by design. Then we have a look on the interior. It's a bit very much of its time all of the grey, but I do actually quite like the seats. I like this plaid fabric centre insert, and we've even got a little bit of red to liven up what is a pretty dull interior. And then the car itself, considering their steel wheels, they're actually quite an interesting design, although the problem with steel wheels, of course, is rust takes hold very quickly. We can also make out the tape stripe and the door mirrors. And then finally, going down the back there, that sort of interesting design of the second generation. Anyway, let's move on and have a look at the next model. So next model up is kind of like what you expect to see, really, isn't it? It's the booted version of the Astra, the Belmont. So let's see how this is described. So this one tells us, surprising in a saloon car, the four-door Belmont Jubilee saloon has a split folding rear seat to give greater versatility and capacity to the passenger luggage mix. That's even more surprising when you consider that the elegant Belmont saloon has a boot capacity of no less than 19.4 cubic feet with the rear seat upright. That's significantly more than many much larger cars and makes the Belmont one of the foremost load carriers in its class. But this Belmont is no unattractive workhorse. The Jubilee models are well equipped in every way, with comfort and convenient features that make driving or being driven a positive pleasure. Take the stereo radio cassette player for example, though it's unlikely anyone else will, since it's protected by the security code system. With 4 speakers, electronic memory and front rear fader, as well as left right balance, is a high quality audio unit by any standard. And then it gives you a little image of that Philips unit that you get and how the Belmont Jubilee is badged. So the Belmont Jubilee saloon features include plaid sports cloth seats and door trim, driver's seat height adjuster, 60/40 split folding rear seats, and like it says, that is certainly unusual to see on a saloon car. Front seat head restraint, stereo radio cassette with 4 speakers, quartz clock and cigar lighter. Tells you about the sports wheels and low profile tyres, then moves on to the tinted glass with windscreen shade band, body coloured door mirror housings, silver highlight to bumper and body side protective mouldings, double coach line stripe, Jubilee decals on front doors and boots, so kind of like goes hand in hand with the hatch, of course. Have a look at the dash and the steering wheel. I always found them a bit grey and plastically, to be honest with you. These cars at this time, no rev counter, just to remind you, it is quite a low spec vehicle though. And then the car itself, and also gives you an idea what it looks like in a different colour. You can see the Jubilee badge there on the door and those red colour coordinated door mirrors, which seem to be always a thing to say, oh, I've got a slightly better model. And of course that tape stripe going all the way down. I think overall, maybe it's just a personal thing, I think I found the Belmont a little bit less attractive than the hatch, but considering it's a very curvy shape, I think they did quite a good job of making it into a saloon. And then finally the estate, or wagon if you prefer. Probably the model I probably would have preferred out of the 3, and of course the final of these Jubilee models. Quite a small but practical little load lugger. Let's see how it's described and have a look at the features, which, to be honest with you, will probably the same sort of idea with a few extras because it is an estate. So it tells us Astra Jubilee estates are as well appointed and comfortable as the hatch model and the Belmont Jubilee, with comforts such as driver's seat height adjuster, green tinted glass, and they have the same powerful 1.3 engine. Excellent fuel economy and amongst the lowest service times in their class, which means that the Astra Jubilee estate represents excellent value from any standpoint, just like the Astra Jubilee hatch and Belmont Jubilee saloon. The estate also has a split folding rear seat, accommodating a substantial 16.6 cubic feet of luggage behind the rear seat and below the roller blind load compartment cover, standard on the Jubilee model. It can swallow a massive 53.7 cubic feet of luggage with the rear seat folded flat, and if that's not enough, there's a payload of 505 kgs. For those whose sport or hobby or business requires a trailer, the Astra Jubilee estate has a towing capacity of 900 kg, making it an attractive, stylish load carrier with the power to get things moving. I look at it from the rear, and I must admit I always appreciate when car manufacturers are brave enough to put a straight back on a estate. Obviously it makes it way more practical. You know, mainly the reason why they don't do that is, you know, looks, because it does look like a van in some ways, I guess, but I think the practicality wins by doing a straight back. We can also see we've got a rear wash wipe and those very nice integrated roof rack. We can see how the estate is badged, simply Astra Jubilee. Specs again, and of course this is an estate, so they couldn't resist throwing in that sort of space when those seats are folded down in the back. It tells us plaid sports cloth seat and door trim, driver's seat height adjuster, 50/50 this time, split folding rear seat. Wonder why they changed it to 50/50 for the estate. Anyway, front seat head restraints, stereo radio cassette with 4 speakers, quartz clock with cigar lighter, retractable load area cover. Tells you about the sports wheels and low profile tyres again. We also get tinted glass with windshield shade band, intermittent tailgate wash wipe, luggage roof rails, body colour door mirrors, silver highlight to bumpers and body side protective mouldings, double quartz line stripe, Jubilee decal and front doors and tailgate, and then we can have a little bit of a look at that roller blind covering that luggage. Another look at that interior, and again another look at what all the models would have looked like inside from a different angle. Keep fit windows, of course. It is, like I say, a sea of grey, so I'm kind of glad they added that little bit of red to try at least to brighten it up a bit. And then the model itself. Have a look at the rear end there with that tape stripe and those steel wheels, and of course the roof bars up there again, which is kind of like a nice little extra to throw on the estate model. We've got the Jubilee badge, which is actually really shows on this particular colour. Of course the same sort of colour coordinated door mirrors and those bumpers with that bright insert. Back page then is the specifications. We'll probably just pick some key points out, I think, as we've gone really over a lot of the equipment you get on these, and at the end there it also shows the colours you could get these special editions in. But let's have a look at the top there. So there we go, a lot of the information we've already seen in the notes for the standard equipment. Interesting things like 60/40 split folding rear seat, apart from the estate which did 50/50. Not sure why that is the case. What else have we got that we may have missed? 2-spoke steering wheel, continental style front door armrest, etc, etc, but like I say, we've touched on most of it. Carpeted rear parcel shelf, Belmont saloon, carpeted load area for the hatch, extensive sound insulation, front door pockets, and it moves on to the exterior. Again, we've covered most of this. I will just include it in the video so you can always pause it if you wanted to read every little detail. Then it moves on to the engine, so we get a 1.3, a 1297cc engine, which certainly sounds a little bit small, particularly for the estate version, but we're getting maximum power of 75 PS at 5800 RPM, maximum torque 74.5 pound-foot at 4200 RPM. Automatic choke, which, you know, cars were moving on to that of course by this stage. Engine features overhead camshaft, electronic brakeless ignition, hydraulic tablets, alloy cross flow cylinder head, electric cooling fan. Tells us we can run on unleaded fuel as well. And then the performance, so the manual saloon and hatch doing 106 miles per hour, the automatic saloon and hatch doing 103. Surprisingly, the estate loses, you know, a noticeable amount. You probably wouldn't notice day-to-day performance, but still the estate drops down to 103 for the manual, 99 for the auto. So the fuel economy, let's just pick urban cycle rather than going through all the figures. So the 1.3 hatch 4-speed, so there was a 4 or 5-speed option there by the looks of it. If you went for the 4-speed, you were getting 32.5 miles per gallon. If you're getting the 5-speed, you're getting 31.7. So interesting, a drop for the 5-speed, but of course that would have been made up at higher speed performances. The estate drops down to 31.7 for both the 4-speed and the 5-speed. I will just, for the sake of it, include the other figures there, but I'm not going to really go into much information, but you'll certainly be able to see how it improves with that 5th gear. Transmission, so it does tell you that it is front wheel drive, of course, but more importantly, 4-speed gearbox is the standard gearbox, but the optional 5-speed gearbox available on all models would have been worth going for the 5-speed. Surely, I don't know what the price increase were, but we're getting later on into the 80s. I think most cars really were thinking more at 5 speeds by this stage. If you're still using 4 speeds, you were a little bit behind the pack, I think. Suspension is front independent McPherson struts with damper, cartridge and coil springs, anti-roll bar. Rear is a compound crank with twin trailing arms. Progressive rate double conical mini block springs, Astra hatch, Belmont saloon. Mini block cone type springs for the Astra estate. Telescopic dampers, anti-roll bar. Steering is rack and pinion with a turning circle of 32.2 feet. Brakes, dual circuit, diagonally split system with servo assistant. 2 pressure conscious reducing valves, Astra hatch, Belmont saloon. Load sensitive proportioning valve, Astra estate. Handbrake on and low brake fluid warning lights, plastic coated brake pipes. Then we get fuel capacity, electrics, 12 volt of course. The body, all steel body with extensive anti-corrosion protection, safety crumple zones front and rear, rigid passenger safety cell, single 2-way key operated locks, ignition and fuel cap, burst proof door locks, child proof locks on rear doors, tailgate assist struts on Astra hatch estate. The Jubilee, Astra and Belmont models carry a 6-year body panel anti-perforation warranty. This brochure also includes the dimensions, load capacities, and that is just the rest of the fuel economy figures, of course, which we did have a look at. Right at the bottom, more sort of gross weights, and then moving up, then talks about the steel wheels and low profile tyres again, and then the factory fitted options at extra cost, so that 5-speed gearbox, 3-speed auto transmission, sliding tilting glass sunroof, tiltable steering column and metallic paint. And then the colours you could get these in, so glacier white, carmine red, midnight blue and ruby red. The interior is trimmed in grey with plaid sports cloth seat facings and door inserts. So the one you would have had to spend more on because it was a metallic was midnight blue and ruby red. And then if I just move the camera all the way down, we get that Vauxhall GM Opel badge group, and then Vauxhall Motors Limited Luton, the postcode, the brochure number V6707, published October 1987. So there we go, the Vauxhall Astra and Belmont Jubilee. Indeed, we will have to do more on the Mark II Astras, won't we? But do you remember these Jubilee models? I don't think I actually do remember seeing them around. I'm sure they would have been sold in limited numbers, or maybe I did and didn't notice because they don't really shout at you, do they? But another sort of special edition to move the cars on, of course. We'll end, as we always do, by saying please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free, helps you keep in touch with the channel and is very much appreciated. You'd never be charged for being a subscriber, it's just a case of clicking the subscribe button. You can also now become a member. Have a look at the YouTube homepage for that. But thank you so much for watching today. We'll add a couple more boxes here for other episodes you may want to have a look at if you want to continue viewing. But like I said, thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon. And goodbye.